Oh, yeah. Welcome to HBRV Lifestyle. We are live today. Um, it's been a heck of a week. We changed the format. Well, I should say, I changed the format of the podcast. Um, I'm starting to find out that I have a lot of people that absolutely hate me in the community, and it's a very small percentage. But I'm starting to find that once you have told the truth about something, that you pretty much are putting your reputation on the line. So I've had to block another person on Facebook because unreasonability. So I put out a poll to several groups, several Facebook groups, several Instagram. I put out a poll, and the poll said, after hearing all the evidence of the supposed motorhome sales ban, which doesn't exist, how do you feel about it? And I put fake news for views. No matter the evidence, I believe there's a sales ban. And number three was, it's really complicated. So far, I've had 2,000 responses between all the polls, and 91% of people said that they believe the sales ban doesn't exist, that it's fake news, or that it's very complicated. And it seems pretty split between those two. It's like 50% say it's fake news, 41% say that it's complicated. I can understand people feeling like it's complicated because it is complicated. I mean, you have some states that are kicking this can down the road. Um, it's a complicated situation in a lot of respects. I'm just tired of seeing people so brainwashed. So 8% of people are brainwashed into thinking that whatever a corporation says must be true. And then, there comes a certain point where arguments don't help. You offer people evidence and say you'll email the evidence to anybody that wants the evidence. And, oh, I'm not giving out my email. And then you copy and paste the evidence, and then you're accused of photoshopping it. There are just people that can't be pleased in this world. There are people who believe some of the silliest things just because someone that they adore or love, or or maybe they just are so caught up in the lie that they don't know how to get out of it. But yeah, 2,000 responses so far between YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all the platforms. X, which is formerly Twitter, 91% think that it's either fake news or it's complicated. Now, I understand the people that think it's complicated because even my explanation of it and these other couple YouTubers that have come out and explained it it is complicated. It's really a decision made by corporations whether they're going to participate in anything in these 6 or 7 states now. Now, 28 days later, and then we're going to get back into the motorhome sales ban. But I watched the 28 days later trailer, and it looks really, or 28 years later trailer, and it looks really, really good. I mean, it looks absolutely like a ton of fun. And I'm looking forward to it. I actually, I don't look forward to movies that often, but I'm actually looking forward to it. Um, Anyway, this motorhome sales ban thing's got me just. I'm tired of talking about it, but it's like I'm also can't let it go because until people start telling the truth and stop spinning the story, it's hard not to talk about it. It really is hard to let it go when you keep seeing everybody spin it. Okay, let's go to the emails. This is going. Dear HB, watch your YouTube video on the CARB's response to the motorhome sales ban. This was very useful information. 2 questions for you. Question number 1, from your perspective and the research you've done, do you think that these regulations will stay in place past January 20th when Trump takes office? And number 2, if Trump still leaves it to the states like he seems to be letting a lot of other things happen, do you think they will kick the can down the road more in these 6 states and the 5 additional states that are thinking of adopting this law? So first off, I think the first thing that's going to happen is I think driving an electric vehicle has shown me that it's both a very wonderful thing to have and it's a very horrible, terrible experience. So we don't have the infrastructure. If everybody wanted an electric car, everybody wanted an electric RV, everyone wanted a hybrid RV, a plug-in hybrid RV, if the entire RV industry, the entire automotive industry, the entire trucking industry went full electric, and they wanted to, not forced to, but voluntarily wanted to, we would have so many problems. It's not even funny. It would be a nightmare equal to what the gas shortage was in the 1970s. If you were alive in the 1970s, I wasn't, but I've heard nightmare stories and comparisons. And I've stood in line at charging stations, whether it's a Tesla station or one of the regular ones. I've stood in line for 3 hours waiting for a charger because chargers in the surrounding area are down for whatever reason. There's a gasoline station almost at every corner of almost every major city on the West Coast. You can pull up, you wait 10, 20 minutes at the most, especially if you're at a Costco. You fill up your gas within 5 minutes and you go. So even if we wanted to go full electric, we can't. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, do I think Donald Trump will stop this? Yes and no. I think Trump will leave it up to the states, but I really think that what's going to end up happening is a bill will be introduced probably in 2026 in the state of California, in the state of New York, in the state of New Jersey. There is going to be people that are going to introduce a bill that's going to basically cut out the law that these folks have manipulated in the past. This is a political warfare weapon that corporations use. Because here's the difference. And somebody was fighting with me about this earlier this morning. This is the difference. You got a corporation that wants to protest this law of making everything electric, or eventually making everything electric. And you have 3 really big RV states, actually 4 really big RV states, 2 medium-sized markets. If you tell the consumers of Washington, Oregon, and California, screw you guys, we're going to protest your government's laws about clean energy, which isn't clean, but clean energy, because it's not right, the infrastructure's not in place, the technology's not there. If they start saying things like that, then California people are going to they're not going to care. They're going to be like, okay, good for you, and move on. But if you create a document that goes through your legal team to make sure you can't get sued, and you call it everything but a protest, you call it a sales ban, you get YouTubers to come out and give clickbait thumbnails and clickbait titles and spin and twist the truth, now you have a political weapon to lobby the federal government to eliminate this ban. That's what this really is. I prefer the rock hard solid truth that these motorhome manufacturers and the chassis manufacturers want to give the middle finger to California and the rest of these states, and I don't blame them. I'm 100% behind them doing that. I'm not 100% behind the Spin City bullshit. I'm not. It's not the way I am. I'm not that way. I'm never going to be that way. And for those of you that think I'm a paid propagandist, that I'm a paid lobbyist, obviously you don't know that I'm homeless, have no money, and living in a car. So, obviously, if I was so rich and famous that I have all this propaganda money, obviously I wouldn't be homeless. Obviously I wouldn't be doing my live streams in a car. Okay. So, for those of you that want to make ridiculous comments, good luck. If you really believe that Newmar is completely 100% correct on this, that's like me telling you that today, that's like me telling you today that Brinkley is going to sell to Thor. Now, Brinkley will eventually sell. We don't know who to. We don't know when. It will eventually sell. I predict Brinkley will sell now because of the way the economy is. Probably not until 2027, 2028 at this point. I don't know what their interior loan situation is. That's nor here nor there. But that's like me coming out and saying that every single frame built by Lippert is a pile of crap and falls apart with no context. It's the same thing. There is no such thing as a motorhome sales ban. Period. End of report. Dear HB, unfortunately, what you're going through with the battle against people spreading misinformation is kind of how our country works. The truth isn't sexy. The truth never sets you free. But here's my question for you. If you were to get in front of 50,000 people that were not influenced by a media source, how would you tell people that the economy is going to be bad in 2025 without causing a panic? Ooh, good question. Great question. What's up, K-Tech? That's a great question. So if I were to be in front of 50,000 people, no media, no Spin City, this is how I would tell them. I would actually start asking questions like, how many of you bought your home before 2020, before the pandemic? And if half the room raise their hand, say, okay, you guys stand over here to the right. Everybody that bought a home during the pandemic, raise your hand. Those people I'd put in another section. Everybody that rents right now and doesn't own a home or lives in an RV, you go in this section. And I go, okay, so the people that live in the RV and rent and the people that bought their house before the pandemic, you guys are fine. You folks that bought a home during the pandemic, you bought cars during the pandemic, you bought your whole toy selection during the pandemic, you folks are the percentage of the United States of America that's going to go through one of the roughest economic times that you've ever been through. And then I would explain, I would turn on Grant Cardone and have him explain the commercial real estate crisis we're about to go through. I would turn on the three guys that are selling their Airbnb and Vrbo investments, because short-term rentals are slowly but surely going to be banned in every city and every state and every county in the United States within the next 5 years. So what I would tell people is go on YouTube and go see who's pushing courses and classes of how to get rich doing something. Okay. So right now, lots of people are on there talking about how to get rich on YouTube, how to blow up your YouTube channel, how to create an Airbnb business, how to create a short-term rental business, how to create this business, how to create that business. Those are the businesses going out of business. And those influencers are trying to suck every last dime out of that business as they possibly can before it crashes. So they start teaching you courses and having you pay money to do this. And you have short-term success and you start giving all these great reviews about it, and then you get hurt during economic bad times. The people, they always say the first people to the dog bowl are the ones that eat the best, and then they leave the scraps for everybody else by having you pay for the scraps. And that's how this economy is going to hurt significantly in 2025. I don't think it'll last very long. I think it'll last 9 months, 10 months. I think by October, November of 2025, we'll start to recover. I don't think we'll recover anytime sooner than that. Whether you love Trump, whether you hate Trump, doesn't matter. Trump, Harris, a 5-year-old golden retriever, a 40-year-old virgin, it doesn't matter. Nobody has a magic wand to make everything go away and go bippity boppity boo. Okay, just the way it goes. So that's how I had to explain it to people, like in the simplest terms. And the other thing I would explain to people is you're not going to buy things for pennies on the dollar. The only time you're going to pay for pennies on the dollar is if you're spending 30, 40, 50 million dollars on commercial real estate. If you have 100 million, 200 million dollars in the bank, yeah, you're going to buy you're going to buy commercial real estate and housing products and investment properties. You're going to buy those for pennies on the dollar. Buying a car, a truck, an RV, a boat, a power sports, whatever the case may be, a TV, that you ain't getting things for pennies on the dollar. That's not the way it works. We were taught supply is high, demand is low. That means that prices are going to come down. That only works in specific industries. Gasoline being one of them. Groceries, another one, because food spoils. Gasoline sitting still is not good. You can what people don't realize is an investment firm that bought a single family home. Okay. If you bought a single family home as an investment group, you can leave that house empty for 4 years and take a massive tax deduction. You don't have to sell that house for 50% of its value to get rid of it. The tax deduction in a lot of cases is going to be a better move than selling the house. So the real estate crash that occurred in 0809 was also because investors who bought all these single family homes and were trying to rent them out, the same thing that's happening now, it all collapsed together with CDOs and all that complicated crap that happened in 08 and 09. So that's why the housing market dumped. This next housing crisis will not drop prices significantly. Will you get it for 90 cents on the dollar? Probably. Are you going to get it for 85 cents on the dollar? Possibly. Are you going to get it for 60 cents on the dollar? No freaking way. Not going to happen. There was a guy on Instagram yesterday. He was doing a live stream. And I happened to be watching him at the time. And one of the things he said is the perfect time to buy something is when interest rates are high. Because you can always refinance it when it goes down. Debt is the best way to buy things because you're going to buy things at its peak and it's best time to buy when interest rates are high and you refinance it to the lower rate when rates go down. The worst time to buy something is when interest rates are super low because that means whatever you're buying, the seller is making maximum profit, whether it's a private seller, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a mom and pop store. When you buy when interest rates are high, the profit margin from the company is super small. When you buy things when interest rates are really low, the profit margin of the company or the individual is super high. Profit and wealth is built by people who buy when interest rates are high and sell when interest rates are low. It sounds so simplistic, but it's really complicated. So the economy is not as cut and dry as supply and demand. And that's where people are misunderstanding. So I'll give you guys a great example. I have been saying for the last 3 weeks that the best time to buy an RV is the last best time to buy an RV in the next decade is this coming year. So there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines thinking that dealers are going to get desperate to sell things for 70% back of what they paid for it. I mean, there's just some ridiculous comments out there. Prices are not dropping like you think. There's some great marketing strategies out there. Camping World's telling everybody gets friends and family employee discount. Really? Come on, guys. I worked for Camping World. I know what the employee discount is. There's a lot of profit in that employee discount. So you're not getting anything special, but it's a great marketing tool because it's going to get some of you guys off the couch and out RVing next year. I have nothing negative to say about that marketing strategy. Nothing at all. I actually think that's brilliant because it'll get some of you psychologically off the bench and go and get something. I'm all for it. But the reality is that if you buy in 2026 or 2027 because you think you're going to get a better deal, you're going to be sorely disappointed. If you're not buying in 2025 because maybe you're not ready, maybe you don't have enough cash down to feel like you're going to feel comfortable with the payment, or maybe you're going to feel more comfortable if you have 50% down, so that way if something goes wrong, you can dump it real quick. Maybe you're working on your credit. Maybe there's some things going on in your life. Maybe you're taking care of a family member. Those are all great reasons to wait till 2026 or 2027. Just realize you will pay more the longer you wait. And there's nothing wrong with that. Buy when you're ready, willing, and able. I always say that. I've said that for now 4 years on this platform. Buy when you're ready, willing, and able. Okay? If you're missing one of those three, you're never going to buy. But if you're sitting on the sidelines because you think, because you were taught, because this is what this person says and that person says, you have to start thinking the opposite way. You have to start realizing that if everything crashed tomorrow, the entire system would be so screwed up. If tomorrow, here's a great example. This would be really good. Great example. Let's say that you bought a brand new motorhome in 2017 and you paid $75,000 for it. And over COVID, it was going for 125, 130. It kept, that new coach because of all the inflation. And then next year, every dealership across the country took that same brand new coach you bought for 75 grand back in 2017 and they started selling it for $25,000 brand new. What would every person that bought a 2017 motorhome do with their current motorhome? Mr. Banker, come pick up your stuff. I am not going to pay on something that I'm underwater $65,000. It would be the largest voluntary repossession in American history. And it wouldn't happen just for RVs. It would happen for boats. It would happen for cars, for trucks, for airplanes, for power sports, for race stuff. Anything that is associated with a book value would be repossessed voluntarily in mass quantity. Look at the housing market in 0809. Perfect example. People were so far underwater in their mortgages, they had to modify the mortgage. Remember that? Remember how many people had to modify their mortgage? How many people lost their homes because the banks went, yeah, so you paid 400 grand in 2004, but the house is worth 150 now, so we got to take it from you. Remember all that? I remember that. Yeah, and it will get worse, Theo. If tomorrow morning the economy crashed so bad that motorhomes were being sold for 20 cents on the dollar, that would get worse. So if that's what you wish upon the market, if that's what you wish upon your fellow Americans, your fellow Canadians, if you wish for dealers to go completely out of business, if you wish to have manufacturers go completely out of business because you want things for pennies on the dollar, I don't know what to tell you. It's never going to happen. It would crash the Simpsons. It would crash the absolute system. It would crash it. So you can't, it's okay, Mike. I like your battle with me inside the Facebook group, though. It's a good battle. If it's you. I don't know if it's you or not. So what the reality is you can get a good deal on used motorhomes right now, private party, that are older. I've seen a lot of guys finally drop their prices. That's good. I've seen a lot of people. I'm not a paid propagandist, by the way. Anyway, you can go buy an '04 Beaver Marquis for a lot less money than you would have, let's say, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. pre-COVID. You're starting to see a lot of private party people lowering their expectations of what they're going to get for their travel trailer, their toy hauler, the motorhome. So there are good deals out there because I've noticed it. I've gotten a lot of messages. I've gotten a lot of emails from people. What do you think it should sell for? The dealer says, like, here, I'll read you this email. This is a great one. This is a good one. This is from Monday. Dear HB, I have a 2006 Fleetwood Southwind 32V. It's on the workhorse. I've had the brake caliper recall done. So it has all brand new brakes, brand new tires. I just had the roof done, had all the appliances serviced, the generator serviced. It only has 61,000 miles. I am the original owner and I do have the title. I've been trying to sell this motorhome for around $65,000. It's full body paint. It's in the wrapper. I've kept it indoor kept inside a barn. I seem to get a lot of offers from people around $35,000 when they come see it, and I've had dealers that tell me it's probably worth around 15 to 18 grand wholesale. I feel like that's absolutely disgraceful, especially as gorgeous as this coach is. So I replied, and the reply was, how much? I replied, I said, how much did you pay for it brand new? Question mark. And it took him a day. And on Tuesday, he said, I paid $54,000 for it back in 2005. I go, so you planned on making money on the motorhome? Question mark. You planned on there being no loss of value to the motorhome? Question mark. And then he sent me his phone number and I called him and I talked with him. And I'm kind of a rude person in general. I'm very rude and obnoxious because once I'm locked in, I'm stubborn and I'm never going to let go. I'm going to bite on, clamp on, and ain't letting go. Right? So I told him, I said, look, let me ask you a question. What will you pay for your motorhome? And then he started like going into all this stuff. And I go, look, the reality is that when you click on all the NADA or the, what is it now, JD Power stuff, that's all fairy dust. That doesn't really exist. And I said, did you look at what people are listing them for? He goes, yeah, they're listing them for around 45 grand. I go, people came out and saw yours because of how beautiful it is. So imagine at 45 grand what they're offering their people. And he laughed. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to drop your price down to $45,000 and then see if you get an offer. Well, he texted me this morning because he lives in Indiana. Guess what? I sold it for 45 grand today. The guy didn't even argue the price. Most people don't want to argue about the price. Most people want to go online. They want to shop in their price range. They see the best one for the value. They want to go see it and say, I'll take it. That's how the majority of America works now. Baby boomers, the golden era people, the Gen Zs, Gen Xs. Nobody wants conflict as much anymore. Very small percentage of people want to walk in and hammer each other and beat each other up. Most people, okay, this is what I want to pay. What are they listing it for? Cars. I've seen it a lot in cars. Cars don't negotiate much anymore. It's like you shop for one in your price range and then you call like 5 or 6 dealers and just see what their price range is. If it's like, if you got to drive 200 miles, save 100, 500 bucks, you're like, no, I'll just stick with the local dealer for the 500 bucks. It ain't worth my time to travel 400 miles round trip to even find out, right? But if it's like a $5,000 difference, you're going to go travel the 200 miles, right? So that's how people operate anymore because we have cell phones and we have the internet. And we have the ability to research. We have the ability to go online and do our own homework. Like me, I'm a jack off. I'm a jerk off. Okay. Like as soon as I'm going to give you an example. So a couple years ago when the whole generator ban thing came out, okay, in California, Everybody wanted to argue with me that that propane generators were included in the generator ban. I got people that argued with me for a year about that and then went, oh, well, there's propane generators for sale everywhere in California along with diesel. I'm like, duh. Because the California Air Resource Board, I like spent a week trying to get a hold of somebody. Now I have my direct contact there. And I was like, and they sent me this like complicated email, and I replied back just like the same way I did this one about the motorhome sales ban, and went, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. And they didn't get it. So then I sent another email. Never mind, screw the 5 years old. Explain it to me, and I took this from Jeremy Irons. Explain it to me like I'm a golden retriever. I said, it's not brains that are going to get me to where I need to go, but I need to be able to explain it to people logically, not like a Martian talking to a fungo, right? And eventually people got off the whole high horse about generators and generator ban, okay? So, it's a matter of we have to look at the perspective of a lot of different avenues of where things go. The used RV market is going to be a great market to go buy in 2025, as well as the new market. You can't discount either way. If you're strapped for money, or you're just in your mind, you're like, you know what, I'm not going to spend more than this on a toy. I can't see myself spending more than this on a toy. There's nothing wrong with searching the used market at all. There's nothing wrong with checking out private party. And, there's great resources for all kinds of used. There's consignments at dealers. There's private party sales. There's trades. There's auction pieces. You can go to, look, I use Facebook Marketplace a lot when I go to the dealers. Craigslist, obviously, which is a dying breed, unfortunately. Instagram's another good place. TikTok, not as much as it used to be, but the other ones offer up. There's a ton of avenues you can go as a buyer and a seller to move your coach or buy a used coach from any type of system, whether it's private party, consignment, or a trade/purchase by a dealer. And you're going to pay about the same. The difference is when you buy from a dealer in a lot of states, they have to go through at least a safety inspection on the brakes, the propane, and the water. When you buy private party, and I've watched a lot of people that have commented on my Facebook posts, on my Twitter account, on my Instagram, here on YouTube, that says they bought a pile of junk and they're going to dump it onto somebody else. I'm like, whoa, these folks are crazy. You got a bunch of private party sellers that they just want to dump whatever they got, so they're going to dump it onto the next unsuspecting person. That's really the only difference between private party and the dealer. Is the dealer you have some recourse with. Not a lot on used, because a lot of states are as is states. But as is doesn't mean you can't stop the coach, you can't start the coach, you can't do this. So there are safety hazards that have to be taken care of on the dealer side. So that's really the only difference. And of course, if you're getting a loan, a lot of times a dealer can get you a loan better and easier and faster than you would if you went and got on your own private party. Those are only really two differences, right? Pricing is going to be about the same. Now, there's other things that are not going to be the same, though. Okay, this is the other thing you have to watch out for. So let's say Arizona is a great example. Arizona, you buy a used travel trailer private party or used anything private party, you don't pay sales tax. Nevada, same thing. Okay, but at the same time, those two states, if you have a trade-in, you pay sales tax on the difference figure, not on the total purchase amount. So there's ebbs and flows to everything. You just have to decide which is best for yourself, not for somebody else. Okay. All right. Next email. We still got 20 minutes left. Oh, this one came from somebody. This is interesting. Okay. Dear HB. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Dear HB. I have contacted the DMV in California because I am looking to purchase a diesel pusher in Texas. It's the only floor plan in the color my wife loves, and it's located in Texas. Unfortunately, the RV industry doesn't have dealer trades like the car industry does, where I could have just had the damn thing shipped to Mike Thompson's RV and just had Mike Thompson sell it to me. Instead, now I got to fly to Texas and go pick this sucker up and drive it back. Because of the motorhome sales ban YouTube videos, I was actually delaying the purchase because I was afraid I could not register it. It took me 3 weeks to get a proper definition and answer from the local DMV here, and this is what they said. As long as I go get it smogged and it passes the current smog laws, I can register any single combustible engine that I purchase. Well, that's interesting. So here's my question to you. Do you think it's worth the risk for me to go buy the motorhome in Texas and drag it to the DMV? Yes, because you have it in writing. This is why when I talk to people over the phone in government, no matter what, because I talked to somebody in New York. Here's a good example. So New York, I don't know if most people know this, but New York is kicking the can down the road on this whole motorhome and truck, clean air truck thing. They're kicking it down the road another year. Oregon's kicking the can down the road another year. Washington State is the only state out of the 6 states that's not kicking the can down the road besides California. So, yes, I would drive it. I'd go get it. Worst case scenario, you gotta go get a residence in Nevada. Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, they don't abide by their own official statement email. So you have it from the DMV, a California DMV specialist that actually comes from the state of California. You have it in writing that you can register that motorhome in California, buying it in Texas, a 2025, then you should be fine. Okay. All you got to do is just bring that email with you when you register it, just in case. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea and some clarity, I've had people that have bought a motorhome in another state or ordered a motorhome in another state and brought it back to California and have had 0 issues. Now, here's where the issues are going to start coming for California. This is where the big thing in California is really going to screw things up, okay? This is where California is dumb and stupid, okay? There's no such thing as a motorhome sales ban. You can go buy a motorhome in another state, combustible motor, bring it over to the States, have it smogged, and register it, no problem. But where the problem child's going to occur with California is when the gross vehicle weight gets over 20,000 pounds, they're going to start a requirement of you having it smogged twice a year, which is stupid. Because if you look a lot of the technology that has been put in these diesel pushers, in these gas coaches, you would think that a brand new motorhome wouldn't need to be smogged twice a year. Now, I could understand if it was a 1988 or a 1997 that hasn't been updated. I'm in. 200% I'm in. Okay? But to have it smog twice a year as a 2024 or 2025 is just stupid. I mean, it doesn't do, all it's going to do is piss people off. Because this was my explanation. I'm going to read you. This is what I sent to the California Air Resource Board back in 2021. So December 2021, I actually found this email I sent them. Let me pull it up here. Here it is. So they were giving me the explanation of the law that passed that everybody's talking about is the motorhome sales ban. Okay. And I was talking about, because one of the things in there was about like smogging and registering a used motorhome or used GVWR over 14,000 pound chassis. Okay. It wasn't about the 8,500 and one and up. It was about specifically, there's a section of part 2 of the law and part 3 of the law that has to do with buying the coach out of state or buying it used. Okay. And it was mostly like box trucks and delivery trucks. But because the chassis is that those same chassis are used to build the motorhomes, and not everybody registers them properly in every single state. This was my question. The guy I was talking to at the time was a guy named Matthew. I said, "Dear Matthew, so after reading your explanation on the smog laws that are coming up, is there any way you guys folks can look into the fact that motorhomes are driven less than 3,000 miles a year in California? Most California residents don't even drive their motorhomes more than 1,500 miles a year because of how close all the campsite areas are. For example, if you live in any part of, let's say, Pasadena or Glendora, California, Big Bear Mountain is less than a 3-hour drive. If you live in Santa Barbara County and you want to travel to Lake Isabella, it is less than a 7-hour drive. Most people only use their rig between 3 and 4 times a year, which means if they actually did travel, let's say 500 miles round trip, each trip, that's less than 2,000 miles. Is there any exception to this new smog law that takes in effect in 2025 and 2026 that could have a motorhome exemption?" At the time, they sent me a link, and that link was actually an exception form specifically for housing vehicles, which motorhomes fell under that category. And that link is still in the video I did, 3 years ago now. Okay. Well, I clicked on that link the other day, and that link no longer works. And they updated the law. And this is the notes I made on it. Let me get to my notes, because I'm not going to read the whole damn 4-page thing. But these were the cliff notes. Okay. California has decided that motorhomes, gasoline or diesel, over 14,000 pounds GVWR are going to fall into the new smog law, where you have to have it smogged twice a year. So every 180 days, you have to have your motorhome smogged. Okay, now they kicked the can down the road until 2026. But pretty much, whether you have a Mercedes, a Class C Ford, Chevy, a Freightliner, diesel pusher, doesn't matter. They've changed their mind about low mileage vehicles, because the link I gave in that video no longer works starting December 1st. It was working because everybody was telling me, I was getting emails and comments from people, "Oh God, daily, thank you so much for that link in that video." There was over 35,000 people that watched that video over the last 3 years that actually clicked on the link and got their motorhome under the exemption, so that way they don't have to have it smogged twice a year. They just fall into the same smog laws as a regular vehicle. Well, if you didn't do it prior to November 30th, and you buy a motorhome, and you, no matter where you buy it, you can buy it in Arkansas, you can buy it in Florida, you can buy it in Washington State, it doesn't matter. It falls under this new smog law. So every 180 days, you got to go take it down to go get it smogged, or you pay a penalty. Then now, there's another note here. Then you have to pay the new CARB fee every single year because you didn't buy it prior. See, this is why I've been freaking saying for 2 years, don't wait for prices to crash. It just got more complicated to own a motorhome or buy a motorhome in California. Now, most of you are going to, well, I'll just go to Montana and get an LLC. That's fine. That's perfectly legitimate. But that's going to start going away too. Because California, Washington, Nevada, especially Nevada, knows they're losing sales tax revenue. Now you have to provide a driver's license for that state that you have an LLC in. I just watched a guy get nailed to the wall for a $7,000 bill on sales tax in Nevada. He had a Montana LLC, but Nevada state law says, even though it is an LLC, the purchaser of the vehicle, the signer of the vehicle for the company, has to provide a driver's license. If that is a Nevada state driver's license, you have to pay Nevada sales tax. So if you're going to go to Montana and get an LLC, you better go get a driver's license there too. Now, thank God for me, because these states, the 11 western states, know they're losing tax revenue. Okay, look at California is the most easy state to pick on. They're raising their gas tax 85 cents because all the electric vehicles have made the tax revenue from gas tax go way down. Okay, Nevada knows that they are losing tax revenue because the tourism is down. Tourism is down significantly. Formula One was a bust. Okay, the Oakland A's coming to Las Vegas is not happening for a couple of years. The Oakland Raiders suck. They haven't gotten an NBA franchise there yet. So what is Nevada doing? Nevada's like, they've seen a bunch of people that have circumvented the law, gone and got an Oregon LLC, a Montana LLC, a South Dakota LLC. And now they're like, no. Now you got to have a driver's license from another state. So if you live in Nevada and you want to go get an LLC, you better go get a driver's license from that state too so you don't get nailed. This guy I've been talking to, $7,000, plus they're threatening to throw him in jail for fraud. He thought everything was hunky-dory. He bought a $100,000 Cadillac Escalade. The dealership didn't care. They got all the paperwork they need. They do the out-of-state delivery paperwork. They give him his little tag. They turn in the Nevada driver's license and the Montana LLC. The guy got nailed to the wall for a $7,000 sales tax bill. It doesn't matter if it's right or not. It's what it is. You try to cheat the system, and when more people cheat the system, tax revenue goes down, they figure out how to nail your ass to the wall. That's government. That's government across the entire world. Whether it's right or not is not debatable. I don't think it's right, but it's the reality. Colorado's next, guys. Colorado is the next domino to fall in this. California's already doing it. Oregon is doing it. Washington State is now doing it. The only safe haven is Idaho. If you have an Idaho driver's license and a Montana LLC, you could still get away with it. But Arizona, it doesn't matter. Red state, blue state, doesn't matter. When they're losing tax revenue because of a loophole in the Montana state legislature passed to generate income, to generate tax revenue, to generate seats in the U.S. Senate, it's stupid. But and people have been doing it for years. But now they're going to nail your ass to the wall. So that's why I always say, like, be careful what you do. Don't listen to just, like, I'm not going to mention names, but there's one full-time RVer that keeps telling people, just go to South Dakota and get a P.O. box. That'll save you from a hell of a time. With their registration's only $75 every 2 years, no matter what the size of the RV is, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But now, insurance companies, watch this. Insurance companies want a physical address starting January 31st. Most of the insurance companies, when you are going to renew your insurance, want a physical address for where your motorhome, fifth wheel, travel trailer, or toy hauler is going to be stored. Same with cars, same with boats. Well, I live in it. This is why in a video I do about full-time RVing, I tell people, like, let's just say, for example, you live in Arizona. You're going to full-time RV. Okay? You have a daughter that lives in Texas. Move your physical address to your daughter's home. Go open up a brand new credit card. It could be a department store card, doesn't matter. A brand new credit card using that address. Make 6 total purchases over a 1-year period and pay it off before you pay interest. So it reports on your credit bureau the new address. Now you have a new physical address where you have mail that goes to. You can still have your P.O. box in South Dakota. But when the insurance company calls you, you go, oh yeah, I'm in Texas. When you want to trade up, let's say you want to go from a Solitude fifth wheel because of frame failure / frame flex, and you want to go to a Brinkley, but you don't have all the cash, but you have like 30 cash down, and you need to get a loan. Now you have a physical address in Texas that shows up on your credit report, which tells the bank that's where you live. You just happen to travel in your fifth wheel. And if your daughter sells her house, you move your address, open up a new credit card at her new address. And it just keeps revolving. That's legal. And it circumvents the system where you can get insurance all the time. You can get a loan anytime you need to. And you could still get your P.O. box in South Dakota and pay South Dakota's registration. Because there's no law in South Dakota saying you have to have a residence in South Dakota. You just have to have a South Dakota driver's license and the South Dakota P.O. box. That's all you need. And South Dakota's like, I'll take the $75 every 2 years. There's no law in Texas. Since you're not a full-time resident, there's no law in Texas that says that you have to have a Texas driver's license because you're not a full-time resident. You're a part-time resident. You do what we call the 5149 rule. See, that's where you got to do all of your homework and not listen to some BS YouTuber or some BS corporation or some stupid person who, no offense to people, but people will say anything on the internet to get attention. Period. Okay? I'm going to be fighting this motorhome sales ban thing for probably another 6 to 8 months until everybody realizes, holy shit, California is still selling motorhomes. What's going on? Hey, there's 2025 diesel pushers from Forest River on everybody's lot. What's going on? They're not EVs, they're diesel motors. What's going on? How come they said there was a sales ban in Washington? There's diesel pushers being sold everywhere in Washington. They're 2025s, 2026s. It'll take that to happen for everybody to realize that this whole panic over this thing was absolute bullcrap. And so, like, I did a poll, right? I talked about this at the beginning of the thing. I did a poll. Let's see, it was in 30 Facebook groups, Instagram, Indeed, or not Indeed, LinkedIn, YouTube, if Snapchat, all of it, right? And what's really good about when you do a poll amongst current RVers or future RVers is you get a sense for how people really feel about things. So let me read this again because I made notes this morning. 91% of the 2,000 votes that have come in so far in the last day and a half, 91% of people say they either believe that the motorhome sales ban is fake news or it's really complicated. So it was 50.5% said it's fake news or it's fake news. 41%, a little less than 41%, said that's really complicated. So that means only 8 to 9% of people believe that this thing is actually real. And that's because this letter that I got from the California Air Resource Board has been circulating around the manufacturers and dealers, and they're like, Newmar's full of crap. Well, Newmar's not full of crap. Newmar's trying to spin it because they don't want the bad press and bad publicity. By the way, I sent it to KTLA 5 in California because they tried to say the same thing Newmar was saying. By the way, KTLA 5 put in a retraction because the California Air Resource Board and I sent the information. You have to look really deep, but KTLA 5 that came up with this motorhome sales ban story have actually filed a contraction of the story because they know that because the problem is, and again, this is also California Air Resource Board's fault as well, because they write the laws like a Martian talking to a fungo. Okay? Like when I asked these people, when I asked my contact over there to explain it to me like I'm stupid, like I don't understand any kind of the legal language crap that they threw in there. When he explained it to me, and then he had his official media people send me a statement, broken down statement, which I'm happy to share with anybody anytime they want it. They just have to send me their email, and I'm happy to forward it to anybody. I have forwarded it now to over 900 people total. And not one person came back and told me I'm full of shit. Not one person. Every person either sends, holy crap, that's really interesting. Oh my God, is that what really this thing is? That's the reaction. The reaction is, whoa, that's completely different than what people are saying on the internet. So it's just kind of interesting how the twists and turns of things, you know, and I'm never going to convince 8 or 9%. Never going to do it. It's never going to happen. I'm never going to convince the 8 or 9% of people that believe everything that Brinkley says, Grand Design says, Forest River says, Newmar says, Winnebago says. I'm never going to get over the 8 or 9% that are brainwashed that corporations are going to tell the truth. That's like saying a politician is going to tell the truth. I mean, it's the same shit. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm not picking on them because actually in the end, I'm supportive of a protest. I'm supportive if they came out and said it's a protest instead of a ban, and people start talking crap, I would counter it and say, no, that's not a crappy thing. That's an American thing to do. You're protesting a law that's unconstitutional in my opinion. It's an unconstitutional law that California had passed. I'm pretty sure that it's going to reach the Supreme Court eventually. Okay? And I think over time that it'll go away. Okay? I think the whole clean truck air thing will completely disappear within the next 2 years, one way or the other. But I would be more in support of Newmar or Winnebago or Forest River or Tiffin or Thor or Rev Group coming out and saying, we have decided to come together and say no more building motorhomes for these 6 states until they get rid of this law. It does not apply to us. It does not apply to this industry. We're low mileage vehicles. We hardly have, if you look at most of the 10 or 15-year-old motorhomes, they have less than 40,000 miles. I would be more in support of that, and I would actually back them 100% because I would believe they're in the right. But again, that political spin story stuff is just ridiculous. I hate that. $100%, Theo. 100%. They're going to stop it probably quicker than that. Okay? Because I think they even realize how stupid they're being. It makes sense when it comes to, like, here's where it makes sense. It makes sense to have a law like that in a high density trucking area like the ports. You could have a electric truck fleet or a clean air, clean idle diesel fleet that pulls all the cargo out of, let's say, San Pedro or San Francisco or San Diego. It takes it out of that port and takes it to a yard where it gets distributed to all the long haul truckers that have regular diesel trucks. Okay, that's where it makes sense. Because if you go look at the 710 freeway as an example, or the 105, or any of the ones that connect the Bay areas of Los Angeles and all the areas to any part of Southern California, all you see are diesel trucks sitting on the freeway packed, driving 4 miles an hour with black smoke popping out of their exhaust. So it would make sense for the short, let's say 30 miles or 40 miles that these trucks sit and do nothing for all day. It would make sense to say, okay, that area, we're going to do full electric vehicles or full clean air vehicles. And then once they get to this yard, we call the regular truck drivers in. That's common sense and makes sense. I've watched so many of these Amazon drivers lately that they get stuck on the side of the road because their battery pack on their electric van just dies out. Okay? I've seen so many people with Teslas sitting on the side of the road because something went wrong with their battery. Because they don't pay attention and plan out their day when they're driving. There has to be a game plan with electric clean air trucks and electric vehicles. You can't just shove them out the door and say, everybody go grab them. It makes sense. You're talking about a truck that has to tow 40,000 pounds. That's why they have a diesel motor. But you can always have the high density areas go, hey, we're going to have these type of trucks and these haulers. By the way, it would create jobs. It would create jobs, not take away jobs. It would create dock jobs. You don't have to have them, they're not automated. You grab, hey, you're going to grab this Peterbilt electric truck and you're going to take it from San Pedro and you're going to take it over to this part of Los Angeles, and a JBL truck driver is going to pick it up and take it to its destination. And then the 710 freeway would not be a big cloud of smoke. It would be all these electric trucks just transporting to a yard. Short term, short travel. That way, none of them break down on the side of the road. You keep it within a 50-mile radius of the port. That way they don't break down. You don't have any problems. And then from there, traffic's pretty reasonable. San Francisco, when you get outside of Frisco, you get outside the Golden Gate Bridge, you get outside of anything bridging into Oakland, you get into Vacaville, you get into Fairfield, you get into, Livermore and Tracy and Lodi and all these cities in the Bay Area that are not in the Bay. Traffic's not as bad. Well, the technology's there, Mike. The infrastructure's not there. The infrastructure is 40, 50 years away. Okay? We need solar, we need wind, we need alternative power to make the oil last longer. I read this the other day. Nice Turlock. I read this the other day. Guy was saying it's not green energy, it's clean. It's not clean energy, it's not green energy, it's alternative energy. We need the windmills, we need the solar, we need alternative energy, not because our planet's going to die, okay? But because we're going to run out of oil at a faster pace if we don't have other sources of electricity. And the nuclear option is not available. We can repair what we already have nuclear, but from what I read, we can't just go create another nuclear power plant. We have to find, even though nuclear is one of the cleanest energy outputs out there, they're trying to find other alternatives because solar and wind only can give you, I think they said a 20, maybe a 25% capacity, which is way better than zero. But apparently, they got to find other sources. Hydro, they've been looking into that. They've been looking into hydrofusion for like the last 15, 20 years, where you basically take the motion of the salt water in the ocean and you convert it into some form of fusion and it creates clean power. People that are ocean, marine life saviors are trying to prevent that from happening. It's just a screwed up situation. You go build 400-foot windmills and it affects bird paths. If you go out to the Nevada-California border at Primm, Nevada, right where the golf course is, there's an entire field of solar panels, right? Those solar panels have affected the migration pattern of like 5 different bird species, where they actually have started seeing a decrease in their population because whatever reflective light comes off the silver, reflective light comes off of something, or the heat expansion, they're not quite sure, but they know that it has changed the course of where these birds migrate. So no matter what we do, we're going to screw up our environment. But we have to do something because oil, the rush to clean energy that isn't clean, that the carbon footprint to do half what we're doing is never gonna be made up. But it has to be done at some point because oil is not a renewable source. I think the best word for all of it is renewable energy. That's the best word for it. Renewable alternative. I think it's the best word for it. So anyway, guys, I went overtime today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I am looking forward to 28 years later. As I said earlier in the show, I think the trailer for that video, or that trailer of that movie, looks awesome. I'm glad to have Killian back in another movie. That guy just grows on me. And, until next time, hey, remember, toolkit and sense of humor. And I will be doing my podcast Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But tomorrow is an actual day off. Toolkit and sense of humor, folks. Have a good one.